Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Amritpal Singh. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. The second India-Arab foreign ministers meeting begins in New Delhi. India says resolving the conflict in Gaza is top priority. Donald Trump says the US armada sailing towards Iran is bigger than the Venezuela operation. Tensions escalate as Tehran announces two-day live-fire naval exercise near US warships in the Strait of Hormuz. India to take on New Zealand in the fifth and the final 2020 in Thiruvananthapuram today. Both teams get one final chance to prep up before the 2020 World Cup in February. World number 5 Kazakhstan Zelena Rybakina stuns world number 1 Arina Sabalenka to lift her maiden Australian Open title. As he addressed the India-Arab foreign ministers meeting in New Delhi, Jaishankar underlined that conflicts in Sudan, Yemen, Lebanon and Libya also require collective regional and international attention, noting that instability across West Asia and North Africa remains deeply interconnected. He said that common challenge confronting the region is the menace of terrorism in all its forms and manifestations, stressing that zero tolerance towards terror must be a shared and uncompromising principle. Highlighting the human dimension of the India-Arab ties, the External Affairs Minister noted that the region hosts one of the largest expatriate communities, making stability and cooperation a mutual necessity.
Excellencies, colleagues, Namaskar, a good afternoon and a warm welcome to India for the second India-Arab Foreign Ministers meeting. We meet at an important juncture where the global order is undergoing transformation for a variety of reasons. Politics, economics, technology and demography are all fully into play. Nowhere is this more apparent than in West Asia or the Middle East, where the landscape itself has undergone a dramatic change in the last year. This obviously impacts all of us and India as a proximate region. To a considerable degree, its implications are relevant for India's relationship with Arab nations as well. Multiple developments, each of considerable consequence, have taken place in Middle East, West Asia over the last few years. Many of them have reverberated well beyond the region. The situation in Gaza, in particular, has been the focus for the international community. Many of us were present at the Sharm el-Sheikh Peace Summit in October 2025. This evolved into the UN Security Council Resolution 2803 of November 2025. Taking forward the comprehensive plan to end the Gaza conflict is today a widely shared priority. Various countries have made policy declarations on the peace plan, individually or collectively. This is the larger context in which we deliberate on the region's challenges and prospects. There are a number of other situations in the region that also merit our collective attention. One is the conflict in Sudan that is exacting a deadly toll on its society. Another is that in Yemen, with the additional implication for the safety of maritime navigation. Then there is the concern about Lebanon, where India has troops committed to UNIFIL. Where Libya is concerned, all of us have an interest in advancing the national dialogue process. The direction of events in Syria is also critical for the well-being of the region. Contemplating this multitude of challenges, our shared interests warrant strengthening forces of stability, of peace, and of prosperity. A common threat in both our regions to these objectives is that of terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. Cross-border terrorism is particularly unacceptable because it violates the basic principles of international relations and diplomacy. Societies targeted by terrorism have the right to defend themselves and will understandably exercise it. It is essential that we strengthen international cooperation to combat what is a global scourge. Zero tolerance for terrorism must be an uncompromising universal norm. Excellencies, India has strong partnerships with all LAS nations, in many cases maturing to a strategic level. Much of that is rooted in history, where we have long exchanged goods, people, and ideas. In the contemporary era, this collaboration has taken different forms with various partners. The region has some of our largest expatriate communities, key energy sources, major trade relationships, and increasingly emerging technology and connectivity initiatives. We are crucial to each other when it comes to food security and health security. Today's deliberations, while of a collective nature, will nevertheless give a fillip to many bilateral ties. Colleagues, the India-Arab Cooperation Forum serves as a platform to give our positive sentiments a practical shape. Our meeting will examine an agenda for such cooperation in 2026-28. It currently covers energy, environment, agriculture, tourism, human resource development, culture and education, amongst others. India looks forward to a more contemporary dimension of cooperation being included, such as digital, space, startups, innovation, etc. We'll also be contemplating working together on counter-terrorism and parliamentary exchanges. I note that we have launched the India-Arab Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Agriculture yesterday. These activities and initiatives will parallel what is happening in the bilateral domain and reinforce the bonds between us. Excellencies and colleagues, in the last decade, India has developed many more capacities and strengths that are in keeping with the times. Many of these are technology related, and their application has been people-centric. We believe that sharing experiences and best practices in that regard will be to our mutual benefit. I look forward to discussing that in detail, and I'm confident that our deliberations today will be really productive and outcome-oriented.
And earlier, Prime Minister Modi met with the delegation of foreign ministers of these Arab countries, the Secretary General of the League of Arab States, and the heads of Arab delegations who are in India for the second India-Arab Foreign Ministers meeting. During the meeting, the Prime Minister highlighted the deep and historic people-to-people ties between India and the Arab world, which have continued to inspire and strengthen relations over the years. The Prime Minister also outlined his vision for the India-Arab partnership in years ahead and reaffirmed India's commitment to further deepening cooperation in trade and investment, energy, technology, healthcare, and other priority areas for mutual benefit. The Prime Minister reiterated India's continued support for the people of Palestine and welcomed the ongoing peace efforts, including the Gaza peace plan. He conveyed his appreciation for the important role played by Arab League in supporting efforts towards regional peace and stability. India's Environment Minister Bhupendra Yadav announced the addition of 2 new wetlands to India's Ramsar list ahead of World Wetlands Day on 2nd of February. In a post on X, the Union Minister for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Bhupender Yadav, said that Patna Bird Sanctuary and the one in Uttar Pradesh and Chari Dhand in Gujarat have been added to the Ramsar sites list. He noted that India's Ramsar network has expanded from 26 sites in 2014 to 98 sites at present, reflecting the country's commitment to wetland conservation. The minister also said that the two wetlands support hundreds of migratory and resident bird species. The wife of late Nationalist Congress Party chief Ajit Pawar and the leader of the NCP legislative party, Sunetra Pawar, took oath as Deputy Chief Minister of Maharashtra on Saturday. The oath-taking ceremony took place at the Lok Sabha in the presence of Maharashtra Chief Minister, Deputy CM Devendra Fadnavis, Deputy CM Eknath Shinde and other leaders. Earlier, the Nationalist Congress Party chose Sunetra Pawar as its legislature party leader, clearing the way for her to be sworn in as Deputy Chief Minister of Maharashtra. The Deputy CM's post fell vacant following the death of Sunetra Pawar's husband and NCP chief Ajit Pawar, who died in a plane crash on Wednesday in Baramati. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif recently expressed frustration over his country's growing reliance on foreign loans, calling the practice a source of national embarrassment. Addressing Pakistan's prominent exporters and business leaders at an event in Islamabad, Sharif emphasized on the burden of debt on Pakistan's dignity, including the need for alternative economic strategies. Sharif said that both he and the Army Chief Field Marshal Asim Munir feel ashamed when seeking financial assistance abroad. Sharif's admission of begging for loan highlights the country's poor economic and insurance situation. This comes as Pakistan seeks IMF support and debt rollovers. Sharif also openly admitted that the country's survival is being driven by a hybrid regime, with the military playing a central role in governance. The Pakistan Prime Minister comments once again bring into spotlight the country's ongoing economic struggles, including heavy debt burden, rising poverty and the highest unemployment. And Pakistan is facing a severe socio-economic crisis, with poverty rates estimated to have risen towards 45% of the population. Those who were devastated by floods and also affected by inflation, unemployment has climbed to around 7.1%, with 8 million citizens jobless, while exports remain heavily reliant on textiles and commodities. Pakistan is currently facing a severe debt crisis, with a total public debt of exceeding $76,000 billion, just nearly doubling in 4 years. Continuing its humanitarian assistance in restoring connectivity, India sent a consignment of Bali bridges to Sri Lanka from Visakhapatnam. On a social media post on X, the spokesperson of the Indian Ministry of External Affairs said that India continued to stand with Sri Lanka to support reconstruction efforts after the cyclone Ditwa. India assists in restoration of critical connectivity and consignment of 10 Bailey bridges were dispatched today from Visakhapatnam to Colombo on board the INS Ghadial. The supply of bridges is part of India's special economic package of $450 million announced during the recent visit of the External Affairs Minister to Sri Lanka, and also after India's emergency HADR support through Operation Saga Bandhu. And still to come up on this edition of DD India Live, US sees nationwide protests against ICE. US Justice Department begins a preliminary civil rights review into the fatal shooting in Minneapolis. More than 200 people killed this week in a collapse in the Rybakina coltan mine in Congo. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Amritpal Singh. Amid rising geopolitical tensions, Iran's Revolutionary Guard naval forces have decided to carry out live fire exercises in the Strait of Hormuz beginning Sunday and spilling over into Monday. The move comes in wake of the United States warning Iran's elite Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps that it will not tolerate unsafe actions. In the Straits of Hormuz, the strait is very strategic, considered the world's most vital oil export route, connecting the biggest Gulf oil producers such as Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq and the United Arab Emirates with the Gulf of Qatar and the Arabian Sea. Meanwhile, US armada, as Trump has described it, continues to position itself near Iran's waters, led by USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier. The US Navy destroyed destroyer that docked at the Israeli port of Eilat, citing the military as tensions between Washington and Tehran escalate. The deployment comes as Trump signaled that he was open to talks with Iran, even if Washington dispatched additional military assets to West Asia. US President Donald Trump said that Iran wants to make a deal with them rather than face American military action. Despite Iran warning that its arsenal of missiles would never be up for discussion, President Trump has warned Iran to return to the negotiations over its nuclear program or face far-reaching actions. Trump said that an armada larger than the Venezuela operation is on its way towards Iran.
We'll see how it all works out. You know, they have to float someplace. They might as well float near Iran. But it's a rough situation going on. So I stopped 837 people, as you know, last week from being hung. They were going to hang 830. It was all set. And I mean, I'm looking at the people behind me. They're saying, "What kind of racing's a lot nicer than that?" They were going to hang 837 people, and I told them, if you do it, you're going to pay a price like nobody's ever paid before. They pulled back. I appreciated that. But a lot of people are being killed, so we'll see what happens. I can say this, they do want to make a deal.
So a little while back, there was an explosion also heard in the port city of Bandar Abbas in Iran. Moving on, thousands of protesters took to the streets across various states of the United States on Friday against U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement after the fatal shooting by federal agents in Minneapolis. Protesters marched through U.S. capital of Washington, D.C., calling for accountability of the Immigration and Customs Enforcement and urged lawmakers to defraud or abolish the agency amid mounting courage over federal immigration. And protests rallied outside the Metropolitan Detention Center in Los Angeles, where a part of the nationwide anti-ICE demonstrations. Riot police and federal officers informed that lines which yield as crowds chanted for justice and others clashed with authorities. Deputy Attorney General of the United States Todd Blanche confirmed that the U.S. Justice Department has begun a preliminary civil rights review into the fatal shooting of Alex Pretty by immigration officers in Minneapolis. Calling Alex Pretty's death a tragic event, Todd Blanche said that the FBI was examining the shooting incident. Over 200 people have been confirmed dead after a deadly collapse at the Rybakina coltan mine in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. The collapse occurred on Wednesday, Rybakina time. In most a major source of coltan used in mobile phones, computers, commerce, components, and there are about 27 deaths so far. Rybakina produces nearly 15% of the world's oil. Coltan. Surya Kumar Yadav's India host Mitchell Santner's New Zealand is in the fifth and the final 2020 at Thiruvananthapuram in Kerala. India have already confirmed a series win for themselves, but New Zealand avoided being swept away by winning the fourth 2020. The defending champions started their ICC Men's 2020 World Cup preparations by winning the first 3 games to clinch the 2020 series against the Black Caps. With the series in the bag, India were in experimental mood in the fourth 2020 as they opted to play with an extra bowler in place of Ishan Krishnan. This is the final match for both teams before the 2020 World Cup begins from February 7th. World number 1 Elena Rybakina produced a thunderous display to dismantle top-ranked Aryna Sabalenka on Saturday to capture her maiden Australian voice. Rybakina turned tables on the world number 1 in their Melbourne Park final rematch from 3 years ago. In the first Grand Slam final since 2008, featuring players yet to drop set, it was top-seeded Sabalenka who blinked first under the Rod Laver Arena roof as Rybakina came out all guns blazing to break in the opening game and won the first set 6-4. Sabalenka rode back to win the second set 6-4 and scored into a dominant 3-0 lead in deciding the third set. However, Rybakina broke Sabalenka twice in a row to turn the scales and win the third set 6-4. And that's it in this edition of DD India Live. But do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can download the app. The app is available both on Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code to download now. And we'll be back with you as more news breaks here on DD India. I'm Amrit Pal Singh from my entire team here in Delhi. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.